Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. It's now time for our Hog Hoops Report, and for that, we are joined by our Hogville basketball insider, Kevin McPherson, on this Sunday. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good to be with you guys, Nick.
And
Let's talk
and
some hoops.
yeah, well, it just was a great week of Arkansas basketball, just as the state as a whole, right? The Razorbacks go and they play UCA at home. They play Little Rock at home, get 2 wins. They move to 8-0 on the season. But just what was your impressions of the Hogs in this kind of historic week in natural state basketball?
Well, first of all, off the court, I think it's fantastic. I think it's long overdue. We know that Arkansas played UCA last year, so this wasn't unprecedented, but it's still different times. And to have back-to-back in-state opponents was a first. To have two in a season was a first. But I think it's great for the state. When you look at the rosters, UCA, Razorbacks, Little Rock, there's a lot of Arkansas kids on those rosters. Those kids grew up together playing basketball. And so it's an opportunity for everybody to not only get exposure to have an opportunity to create opportunities for themselves, but it's great for the fans in the state who follow these young people. A lot of times with the transfer portal and some of the other parts of recruiting, national recruiting, the Razorback fans don't necessarily identify with players until they get to Fayetteville. A lot of these young players they've already known and have followed before it ever got to that point. So there's more investment there. So I think it's great for everybody. Obviously, Arkansas fans want the Razorbacks to take care of business at
Mhm.
home. They did that. We've seen this Arkansas team. Now let's talk on the court. We've seen this Arkansas team have its ups and downs and inconsistency, sometimes looking disconnected. But the point is that you made they're 8-0. One of only two SEC teams, by the way, still unbeaten. LSU is also 8-0. And this might be as good as the league has been, especially at the top of the while when you look at Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn,
Right.
Florida, some really good teams. So I think Arkansas taking care of of that, not only that unblemished mark, but giving these other teams an opportunity to come in and showcase their programs was win-win for everybody. And look, the Razorbacks had their biggest win of the season, 37 points against UCA in the midweek game. I thought Arkansas' second half was as good a basketball as I've seen from this team this season. I think Eric Musselman probably wanted to see more carryover against Little Rock. Arkansas led by 15 at halftime and held the Trojans to 1 of 11 from three. But Arkansas's inconsistent three-point defense showed up again in that second half. Little Rock made 5 of its first 6, cut that lead down to 5. Was down to a 7-point lead with under 7 minutes left, still in single digits around 4-minute mark, and Arkansas ends up winning by 15 points. So, you know, no matter how you slice and dice it, break down stats, Arkansas has been so good in the paint, on the glass this season, second chance points, the fast break points, transition, winning those battles. Arkansas has been good in so many areas. It's easy to pick out the rough patches, but look, when you're a top 10 team, Arkansas is 10th in the country.
Yeah, can't
You're
forget that.
expected well, sometimes you're expected to do a little bit more, and sometimes you want that scoreboard to reflect the imbalance between top 10 and maybe a mid-major that's struggling to find its way. So Arkansas is not quite there yet as it prepares, to get into league play in a few weeks. But Arkansas is going to have at least one test in the upcoming week that I want to talk about, Nick, because I think Arkansas has a chance to still correct some things and improve on the product that we're going to see on the
Mhm.
floor as we move forward.
Yeah, great segue. I mean, you look at Arkansas, one of the 12 teams in D1 college basketball remaining undefeated. You mentioned LSU, Alabama getting a huge win over the Zags. Conference play is going to be tough. And that matchup you're talking about, it's going to be their first really big test. I mean, Northern Iowa was a good test. Mercer was pretty good. Cincinnati was a great team to play. But they're getting Oklahoma this upcoming week as well as Charlotte. How do you break down those games?
Yeah, you know what? Charlotte's a team that's had success in a good conference, a good mid-major conference, and I think Arkansas will take care of business at home. They'll close out the 4-game homestand on Tuesday. I think Arkansas goes in to that matchup, against Oklahoma at a neutral site in Tulsa. That'll be interesting because it's in the state of Oklahoma, but close to Fayetteville. We'll see which school outfans the other one. But that's going to be an interesting matchup. We know Oklahoma's already upset Florida, a ranked team from the SEC. Of course, that was a home game for Oklahoma, but I think it'll be a good test. Arkansas, by the way, we talk about the 8-0 record. Part of that, they're 1-0 against the Big 12, right? They beat Kansas
Yeah.
State in that first round game in the Hall of Fame Classic. So Oklahoma probably going to present more of a challenge. Arkansas can move to 3-0 away from home if they win that game. And again, those are the kind of tests that Arkansas needs. to continue to identify what needs to be worked on. So far, when we really look at the problem areas, it's been inconsistent 3-point defense, and for the most part, not very good. Just really pretty, let's just say it, it's been an awful 3-point shooting team offensively. And that's something that I don't know that's going to be corrected. The body of work is probably big enough right now, unless something changes in that tight rotation. And guys like a Jackson Robinson, which he played 15 minutes yesterday, the sophomore
Right.
transfer, 6'7" wing, he gets more minutes, maybe. Maybe he gets more of a role in a catch and shoot capacity, and things can change there. But right now, based on the rotations, this team struggles there. And then where they make their bread and butter is getting on that offensive glass, dominating the rebounding, getting to the free throw line. Arkansas has kind of been up and down at that line percentage wise. Overall, though, I think Arkansas still has the parts and pieces, Nick, to validate that top 10 ranking. It's always valid if you keep winning, and Arkansas finds ways to do that. That's the most important bottom line.
And it'll be a tough test, like you said, in Oklahoma, neutral site against Tulsa. They're 2-0 in neutral site games, won both in the Hall of Fame Classic. And it's not a far drive from Fayetteville to Tulsa. I know we'll be covering that game as well. So Arkansas could be 10-0 by the end of next week if everything goes their way. That's season stuff. Let's talk about the future of Razorback basketball now. You were just talking to a big time recruit before we hopped on this segment. His name's Brandon Garrison in the class of 2023. What were you guys chatting about? Who is he? What does he bring to the table? Give me the breakdown of Brandon Garrison.
Well, we've been chatting for a few days. We broke the news earlier last week that he'd be on an unofficial visit to Arkansas on Saturday for not only to go to the Performance Center, hang out with Muss, the coaching staff, the team, but to attend the Arkansas Little Rock Trojans game, which he did. So we've been talking about that. He told me yesterday the visit was going well. Today he said he really enjoyed it. He thinks a lot of this team. He said it's a great team. He thinks a lot of the fans. He said the fans were coming up to him asking for autographs. I guess when you're 6'9", it's pretty obvious you might be on a recruiting visit, 6'9" and a teenager, right, walking around. But all of those things opened his eyes and really impressed him. But 247 Sports ranks Brandon the number 51 player in that class of 2023. So a high level 4-star guy. And anytime you start talking about big players, 6'9", 6'10", the fan base goes crazy because we see basketball moving more and more to small ball and perimeter play. But there's still a place in college basketball for big men, especially big men who bring it. Jalen Williams, all you have to do is look at him. I'm so impressed with him. If I had to say Arkansas has an early season MVP so far, it's probably Jalen Williams, the 6'10" big out of Fort Smith. So, and Musselman knows how to employ a big man that brings different things to the floor. And I think Brandon there's a reason why they had him on campus and why they're recruiting him. Look, he's got around 8 offers. Kansas and Oklahoma come to mind. Arkansas, as we take this segment, has not offered him yet, but that could be coming very soon. But again, Brandon Garrison was impressed with his visit, 6'9" forward, and apparently Arkansas fans took notice because they were asking for autographs.
And an Oklahoma kid. Does that concern you that maybe OU would chase him, or does Muss have a
Well,
great enough pull?
yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, with the Sooners and also Oklahoma State, and then Texas recruits Oklahoma, Texas schools, Kansas does well in that region. Arkansas's in for a battle. Some of these schools have already offered, but I just think Arkansas has done a great job not only putting up the wall in state with most of the players that it's wanted under Musselman, but I also think they've done well regionally. When you look at Jordan Walsh, a 5-star Texas native, now playing his senior season at a prep school in Missouri. When you look at that, when you look at Chance Moore being someone that's in that SEC footprint, not the same part of the country, but even went outside of the footprint region to get him out of the Georgia area, another ESPN top 100. We talk about Barry Dunning Jr. out of Alabama, another ESPN top 100. So I think Musselman has shown some versatility outside of that transfer portal. The high school recruiting's been pretty darn good. So I like Arkansas's chances when they zero in on a prospect, especially one in the state or footprint area, because they've shown they can get it done.
And they always make them a priority. Of everyone we have ever talked to about recruiting and who've been recruited by Muss, they were always in contact with me. I always felt like the number one thing on their mind. That speaks volumes, especially when you track a kid from the class of 2023 who's got some years to decide. Now,
Yeah. The interesting part about that, Nick, is everybody knows how creative Musselman and his staff are with social media and the volume of stuff they put out. But I think what goes behind the scenes that we don't see, but we do hear about it because recruits talk about it, is how much time they spend in the recruiting and building those relationships and bonding, sending coaches out, the Zoom meetings, all the things that go into it. And I think Eric Musselman, above anything else, his hustle game, he's not going to be beat in effort. No one's going to
No,
beat him in effort.
no, he won't.
Not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Let's go now to the players who are at the next level. Pro Hogs. I always like this. Well, what's our update with Pro Hogs? I know we got a bunch of them. We've had some nicked up in the past, but what's the latest update on any Pro Hogs we got in the NBA?
Well, Bobby Portis and Daniel Gafford are really putting their imprint on this league. Bobby Portis just last night had another double-double, 19 points, but he matched his career high with 16 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and a home win for Milwaukee over the Miami Heat. And then, it was his second double-double of the week. And then last week, Daniel Gafford, who came in with 3 double-doubles in his career through the first 2+ seasons, had 3 double-doubles last week. And he's had 4 games of 10 or more rebounds in out of his last 5 outings. So
he's earning that
Daniel
money.
Gafford is starting to put it together in Washington. What the Wizards have a winning record, are one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. Nobody saw that coming after what Russell Westbrook, Mr. Triple Double, shipped out to the West Coast and the Lakers. But that's a good team. The Milwaukee Bucks and the Wizards are both having a say right now in terms of early season records, a third of the way through, being in that top 4 or 5 seed conversation and chance to move up even higher. And they're only a game or a game and a half back of the leading Brooklyn Nets. So Gafford and Portis are both having a big say in those matters because of what they're bringing to the floor. It's production, but then the eye test, when you watch these games, and I watch them, I've got the league pass, I watch them all. These guys are really getting it done at both ends of the floor. Gafford, some of his defensive ratings have been really, really good. And Bobby Portis is an underrated defender. People talk about his craft on offense. He is an energy guy. He's disruptive, and he's got a toughness to him that not all big men have anymore. A lot of guys like to get a fade away from the contact and face up. He's got the face up game. He's got the post game, and he's not afraid to go in there and be an enforcer. So both of these guys are playing well. By the way, Moses Moody, the lottery pick with the Golden State Warriors, is with the G League, the Warriors G League program, the Santa Cruz Warriors, this past week, and averaged 24 points a game and 6 rebounds in a couple of games this past week. So when you're not in the top rotation, you're not getting minutes, or maybe sparing, just a few minutes in the fourth quarter in a blowout win or loss. Then you need to stay sharp. And this is what the G League is. A lot of the top players in the NBA have gone through the G League route and have done the very same thing. And so this is good for Moses Moody to do that. Isaiah Joe, the Philadelphia 76ers, on their recent road trip, had some really good games. This week he wasn't in the rotation, but he's a guy in his second year that's going to continue to get opportunities. And then, of course, Patrick Beverly with the Minnesota Timberwolves is out with an injury right now. He had a groin injury, but he's been a starter and helping that team win some games. They had a winning streak a couple of weeks ago. He was a big part of that. So the Pro Hogs are doing well. By the way, I want to mention Mason Jones. Mason Jones is with the South Bay Lakers in the NBA G League. He actually matched up against Moses Moody this past week, and his South Bay Lakers beat the Santa Cruz Warriors in both of those games. So Mason Jones, a part of that NBA G League, I think he averaged 7 assists, more of a facilitator right now in his role than we know him as a scorer at Arkansas, of course.
Hey, you always love to hear it when every level of Arkansas is looking up, from recruiting to what they're doing at the college level to what they're doing after they leave the university. Razorback basketball only getting stronger in the footprint in the basketball world. That'll wrap things up for our Hogs Hoops Report. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us. More Pig Trail Show after the break.